What is Jamie?
Jamie. I'm your Jamie.
Joe Rogan's.
From Rogan.
All right, let us know if that helps, Melissa.
Thumbs
What
up.
is
Perfect for now, but
Jamie?
that was something. Jamie. Ago. I'm your Jamie.
Joe Rogan's.
From Rogan.
Oh, I should have turned my noise. I could have told because it would have repeated. I had it on in here, but I muted it in there.
Oh, yeah.
I would
Good
have
job.
known.
Better. If you are in both Discord and Facebook, one of them needs to be muted.
Yeah,
you're
I've got
gonna
Facebook
have.
muted.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, there we go. Hopefully. Is that better, Melissa? Testing, testing. Can you hear everyone?
Hello.
I can hear.
Yep. Okay. We're
Oh.
good. Thank you. Thank you for your
Oh,
patience, everyone.
There's two of you on Dustin's mic. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because we've got like a podcast mic.
Gotcha. Was that Courtney?
It is.
Yes,
yeah.
that's me.
Hi, Courtney. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm excited. This is a nice little afternoon activity. That's not a nap.
It is.
Yeah.
How's the little one doing?
Oh, giving us grace. She's
Yay!
she's fighting the nap pretty hard.
Oh
It
yeah.
might be intermittent, but I think she's close to wearing down. But she's 3.
I think that's half of parenting is just outlasting them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
a
trick.
real tough job.
It's a challenge. But yeah, she's good. Thank you for asking. Okay. What else can we move on? Is everybody, all
I
of our
think so,
technical
yeah.
issues solved?
As long as Melissa can hear us on
She can.
Facebook, then I think we're good.
We're good.
I'm glad to hear that. Looks like
Thank you for
some
letting us
others
know.
are on there as well, so that's exciting. Thanks
Yay.
everybody for coming. I'm really
Thanks
excited
for-
to have some people here listening,
Yay.
interested in whatever I have to say, whether it's nothing. So yeah, moving along in this little spreadsheet that I've created here, kind of to keep my thoughts in some kind of order. This is kind of where I spoke about earlier, the 4,000 whatever this timeline went back to. I wanted to cover that timeline and see what was happening during the times that these stories could have happened, right? So once we get to like Noah and Shem and the flood, I'm curious what was going on in the world at this point, right? 25, 26, and 3000 BC. So let's look at that even right now while we're talking about it. So that would have been Sumer would have been the primary kingdom at that time in the area, middle of the Bronze Age. Still fighting with bronze swords and chariots. Egyptian Old Kingdom. So from what I understand, the Egyptian First Dynasty and the beginning of the Old Kingdom is when they built the biggest pyramids. So by the time that these floods and such happened, this would have been along the same time as the huge Egyptians.
What was the time frame again?
For the flood was 2500 BC.
Okay, so that would be, I think, approximately 200 years. Or excuse me, it'd be 2 centuries. Let me see here. Because the Temple of Dozier, which was the first Egyptian pyramid, it's not one of the Great Pyramids, but one of the first ones, was, let's see here. That would
yeah, the
be
step pyramid.
2700.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's right here. Yeah, Egyptian Old Kingdom, right, exactly. Okay, so that would have been after the First Dynasty.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an idea of time frame here.
Definitely. So to put that also into perspective, like with the Iliad and such, here's Troy. So Troy is kind of in its heyday right at this time as well.
Okay. Now, if I remember correctly, the time frame attributed back to Genesis for young, I guess the younger creationists is approximately 6,500.
Yeah, 6,500 years ago, but I think the year that I've seen most pop up is 4004. I'm not sure exactly where that came up, but
Well, that would be, yeah, 6,400 years ago.
right, yeah.
So, okay.
Well,
I was
6,000, I guess, yeah. Um,
She knocked over my bedside table.
oh, of course she did. I can't imagine what she was doing to cause that. But yeah, so like we were saying, I'm really curious about this flood story here and where it gets mixed in because it occurs in other stories as well. Um, Obviously, floods happen all the time. So, was there a particular flood that wiped out a particular civilization in any of these time frames? I'm sure there was. So, that'll be curious to see where they were when that happened. So that would be kind of like we said right here, 2500. And then you've got the Akkadian Empire, which is a really huge empire that takes over the huge portion of the Middle East area that we're talking about. And then the Dynasty. So this Dynasty, is the city where Abraham was supposedly born. And the dates that I've seen have been kind of 1900 back. So here it shows he was born 2200 BC, but I've seen as early as 1900, or I guess as late as 1900 BC. So again, looking across to what was happening at that time, this dynasty would have just fallen, so there was not a predominant empire over his town when he was born. He would have been kind of in a city-state, as it were. I need to look because I keep seeing differing times and shapes for the Babylonian Empire at this time. There was a Babylonian Empire, but it wasn't at his point. It comes up a little bit later. So we'll maybe see that as well. Anyhow, so Abraham will be the next story. So I guess today we'll kind of get up to this point in time, right? Abraham starts in, I believe, he comes up in chapter 11. So that's where I want to cut it off because Abraham's story is pretty fantastic. There's a lot of great stuff there that I want to talk about. So I guess if we don't have any other questions, we can kind of go through the first chapter and see what's going on and a little bit about kind of these questions that we talked about over here at the beginning, right? Is that good with everybody? How's everybody doing? Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. You ready, Mama?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we should have figured out where your recording was and we could have played it.
I know, I was just thinking about that. I can read it. I have it up here. Just tell me how far you want me to go.
So we want to go ahead and do the whole first chapter and then we'll go back and pick some lines, ask some questions.
Yes. All right. Sorry, now there we go. Okay. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, and herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made also the stars also. Apologies. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven." And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth." And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind." And it was so. Did I skip something?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to every thing that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat." And it was so. And God saw that everything he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day.
Yay! Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for going through that all for me.
You're welcome. Apologies for little flubs there and here.
No, it was perfect. All right. What'd everybody think?
I think everybody knows that part.
Yeah, I hope so. If you haven't read that much, then you're not even trying.
I don't know. I find the creation myth just kind of interesting. Because for some reason I kind of reread this part of it. I was thinking about the Norse creation myths,
Oh yeah?
and I'm just kind of curious how maybe the different cultures, why, having different perspectives, how that had an effect on their creation myths.
Absolutely. Yeah. This next one that I'll bring up called Enuma Elish. Um, it's a Babylonian creation myth, and a lot of the words that they use here and a lot of the contexts come a lot from that. And it's whether or not it comes from that story or not, it's more about what these people believed, just in general, right? They had this idea of a firmament that held back the sky, right? You were walking on the earth, and then between you and the sky, something was holding the sky from falling on top of you.
Was the Greek one where it's Gaia is the earth and the Greek god is literally pressing on top of her.
Yeah.
And that's the creation of all the Greek things that I can't think of. The Titans and such were born from that.
It's amazing to me how many of these stories start that way, where it's like the gods created the Titans on accident or created the gods on accident and then had to kind of create the humans either to clean it up or to
well, even the Norse myths almost follow that, because there was the what most people consider North gods. I want to say they're called Aesir's, Aesirs, and they basically had to slew a previous race, and out of that, their existence was made. Like for example, the Norse's 9 realms were made from the bodies of giants.
Okay.
Interesting. I did not know that.
It's going into notes.
So one of the interesting things too that I don't want to forget about, and I don't know if it's the greatest time to bring this up, but there is some belief that the Jewish people at one time, had a what's the word I'm hunting for, were polytheists, and they think what happened over time was the priests of Yahweh basically ended up getting greater power than the other gods, and then they were kind of sort of written out of it all. So
it's funny. That's how it kind of goes down in the Bible, right? I think
yeah,
the prophet Elijah is challenged by several priests that all are not necessarily monotheists, but they believe in another god. I think his name was El, and Elijah performs miracles, and
yeah.
the king kills the other priests for not being able to do what they said they could do, and so then from then on, Elijah's tribe is kind of the tribe to worship or what have you. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's
further
just
down. But yeah.
well, I was just thinking how much of an effect maybe polytheism would have maybe made their creation myth a bit different.
Absolutely. So here I've got another creation myth already lined up for us. As I mentioned before, when I was doing this research on Genesis, this name of Enuma Elish kept popping up here, and that literally translates to "win on high," which is just the first few words here in this epic. This story is really good, and I can give you guys this link if you'd like to read it all the way through. But I've also made here we go, kind of a breakdown of it. So in the beginning, kind of like the story of Genesis, nothing existed except for water. You had primeval freshwater and primeval saltwater, and these were represented by the two gods. And the two gods mix these waters, right? It's kind of sexual, like most creation myths are, aside from Genesis, which apparently at a time some earlier copies had some sexual innuendos in them. But anyhow, so the gods create tumult in this water, and it creates their children, basically, right? And each generation of children adds to the pool of gods that can commingle and create more gods, right? So they're just kind of procreating in this mixture of the two waters, and each generation of children gets stronger and stronger, so that the son is stronger than their father, right? Over a few generations, the father of them all, Apsu, gets tired of all of their noise that they're making, and he tells his advisor that he's going to destroy them. And his wife freaks out and says, absolutely not, you can't do that. We need to find a peaceful way. And the advisor says, no, you need to attack them now. Kill them while you still can. They're going to outgrow you too soon. So Apsu, the male god, plans an attack, and he gets his army gathered. And one of the children, this guy Ea down here, he has a premonition that tells him that the great-grandfather is going to attack. So he sneaks into his great-grandfather's home and kills him in his sleep. So Tiamat, the wife, is furious and decides that now is the time to kill all the children, right? Kill all the gods. So she brings an army, and she places all of her loyal gods as commanders of her army. So again, Ea has another premonition, and he goes to one of his grandfathers that obviously is another god. And this grandfather tells him, go talk to Tiamat and tell her, don't do this, we'll do what you need, right? Upon going to see her host, to see her army, he becomes scared and runs back home and says, no, we cannot do this. She will never talk to me, and so on and so forth. So they cry and say, no god can face her. She's too mighty. Her enemies are too strong. And Anshar, the grandfather, considers for a moment, and they decide to use their youngest hero, right? Their youngest god, which is this Marduk man. And he will come up a lot. This Marduk is, I believe he's in the Bible even. He is the Babylonian god that they all worship, and this is his beginning, right? So they come to Marduk and they say, we need you to protect us, we need you to lead us into battle. And he says, on one condition, I become the king, right? I become the king of the gods. If I win this battle, then you guys all worship me, and what I say goes. So they agree, and they say, here he says, let my word instead of yours determine the fates. So he goes to battle. He carries a net, a bow and arrow, and all the winds of the east, north, south, whatever else I missed. And he's attacking the armies, and he finally runs up to Tiamat, and he proclaims her a tyrant and calls her out for single combat. In the single combat, he ties her up in his net and throws the wind in her face, filling her with all of his wind to the point where she distends. And he shoots an arrow down her throat, and she splits in two. So this is where the story kind of starts coming back together. When he splits her body like a clamshell or a hamburger bun, he creates the firmament from the top side, which is going to hold the waters up, and lays her back down to keep the waters down. So he's created this open world in between her body. So apparently Tablet 5, where this story is tracked, is broken and pieces are missing, but the pieces that they can put together is that he puts the heavens into the order and assigns the gods different tasks. And they complain and say, before this we didn't have anything to do, why are we having to do tasks now? He's kind of like having them take the sun up and put the stars out where they need to be and everything of that sort. So he decides to alleviate their tasks, to their responsibilities. He's going to create a man to do these tasks for the gods. So he says, blood I will mass and cause bones to be. I will establish a savage. Man shall be his name. And he will service the gods that they may be at ease. So this is where he comes forth, and he takes one of the gods and cuts him and uses the blood to create bone and creates man from that. After that, the gods worship him again, and this is all the death part. And they create Babylon as a throne for him. So this is the creation story for Babylon. So everyone in the Babylonian Empire would have believed this story as how their city came to be, and this Marduk is their god, and everyone must worship him. So some of the interesting parts here, like we talked about in the Genesis story, was the firmament holding the two waters apart. The idea that you had the salt and the fresh water in this story, whereas just in the King James you just have the two waters, right? They don't call them fresh and salt water. It's just let it divide the waters from the waters. And then down here he says, and God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. So this is almost the same kind of tale where he's separating and creating a world between the two primordial waters, if you will. I find that very interesting, the way that they both use that same void and darkness and the depth of the waters, and these gods stepping into being in here to do so. Some of the other things that they point out is that there's not any morality mentioned in any of this, right? There's no good or bad. They didn't do this for any particular reason. It just kind of happened. Kind of the same thing here with God. He's saying that when he's done here, he saw that it was good. So he's creating a good world, as opposed to the other creation myths where it's just a world being created. There are specific things that they put into this story to tie it into other stories to make it relatable and make it understandable to the people of the time. And there are other things that they put in this story to separate it, right? To make it different. And part of that is it was good. That's a huge difference compared to previous creation stories. Pete, you also mentioned kind of the different priests or what have you, right, that would have brought this up and the influences they would have tried to put in here. What we talked about earlier, that documentary hypothesis here, we've got the 4 different authors. So the documentary hypothesis goes that you have an author who always refers to God as Yahweh. And the person that came up with this theory was German, and they used J, right? So Yahweh or Jehovah, which apparently is not the way that it was pronounced anyway. But so the first author is just called a J. And then there's another author that always calls God Elohim. Elohim? Something like that.
Elohim?
Elohim, yeah.
It's Elohim.
Elohim, yeah. So he's referred to as E. So you've already got these 2 authors, one that refers to God as Jehovah and one that refers to God as Elohim. And then the third source is priestly. And this one is named priestly because it refers to primarily the laws, the lineages, dates. It's trying to tie dates and times and people to the events. And then here it's got R for the redactor, which is the person that kind of put them all together. But I've also seen it as D as Deuteronical, who wrote Deuteronomy and put these together kind of thing. So here, in this book that I've got here, this Who Wrote the Bible, he says that chapters 1 to 2-3, which is verse 3, are all written by one author, by the priestly author. So this was written probably in about 500 BC, would have been the priestly time. So at this point, they've already had their kingdom, and it's already been broken up. Their temple has already been crushed, and they're trying to reestablish their religion and their heritage, right? So surely this was written long before when this author wrote it down, but the copy that we have was probably written by priests about the time of 500 BC. So these stories here are all a little bit later than what comes in 2-3. So after this point, we switch to a different author. To argue against that point, I recently found some YouTube videos, so I haven't gotten too far into them yet, but that say that in the original Greek, there's a lot of poetry, which is obviously true. All of this is a lot of big poetry and literature. But there are patterns and wordplay in this language that could not have been split across different authors, right? So it would be very difficult to go back and tie your lines back in with the same repeats in the same order, right? So you could say, and God said, and God saw, and God called, and God said. Like, you could put this all in after the fact to fill in whatever point you want, but the poetry that's in it was from the beginning. So you have like 7 times that he said that it was good here in the beginning, and then you have 7 times that he gave the days, right? The day, light and night, and then it was day. There are just all of these 7s. There are also 12s. There are repeats of numbers and themes that would imply that it was all written in a grand scheme all together at one time. with the beginning being written with the end in mind, if that makes sense. I'm still trying to figure out how to determine that, because the most of the research that I found has been that it's these four guys, right, and that they can split them up. I guess I would have to learn the Greek to actually be able to go back and determine where it splits, because that's where the latest, or Hebrew for that matter, go back and read the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Question here for clarification. So, when you talk about the authors, are they talking about specific individuals or possibly a class of individuals?
Could be either.
Okay.
So originally, right, the thought was that this was written by Moses, and so that would have been an individual writer, right? At this point, this person that they refer to as P, they don't know whether that's a person or a group of people, right? It totally could have been a group of priests all getting together and writing these things out. And a lot of times when I say author, I don't believe these people created these stories. I believe they wrote them down, right? So they were already oral stories before this. I would imagine, and they've kind of been.
Yeah, I mean that's my feeling of it, because just the way, for me, I look at the first part of Genesis, and it's like a lot of cultural creation myths and stuff, and it just kind of has that oral feel to it. To whereas some later books in Genesis seem to be a mixture of morality stuff and then kind of folk tales too.
Yeah, a little bit. I think that once we get kind of into the Abraham stuff, there's a lot more specific stories where they have characters, right? Brothers and sisters and husbands and wives and deaths and births and all of that. And we'll get there quick enough. There's also a lot of that, I don't know, like you said, this is all cultural, right? It's all, where did our culture come from? Where did our religion come from? Kind of the same thing as this story of Babylon, right? Where did Babylon come from? This is like, where did Israel come from? Why do we have a place here? And the story of God selecting them out of the group of people. All of this first 10 chapters is going to be God creating the world, and then after that is going to be him singling out the Israelites. Let's see. How does that go? Yeah, so we'll get flood stories up to 6, I guess, after 6. Right now, creation, and then garden, and then Cain and Abel, and then we'll have some generations of man. So we'll see where that all takes us. I'd also, like somebody else said in the Facebook, would be curious to see the different translations and how they change. I don't know that they're very different between, King James and New International Version and such. Which ones are for which churches? I'm sure that the Genesis stuff is all very similar. She too quiet?
No, whoever's talking is.
Oh, can you hear someone? I don't hear anyone.
Oh. Yes, but not anymore. They stopped.
Hello? Was somebody trying to talk? We couldn't hear you.
It was very quiet.
I didn't hear anything
Okay.
on my end.
Oh. I don't know where you're coming from, but I'm hearing ya.
Is somebody typing in here?
No, I think it's auto captions.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I didn't know they do that. Okay, any questions? What do y'all think of the first chapter? Does that make sense being tied off to Babylonian creation myth, the kind of the two waters and the separation of the firmament?
Yeah, kind of going back to the idea of polytheists. I can't help, and I need to read up on it a lot more. It's honestly, it's something I've been really curious about, since I was presented with the idea that, the Jewish people were originally polytheist. Is I'm kind of wondering if maybe the Babylonians at one time were part of that, and maybe that's why they have similar creation myths.
Yeah. The Babylonians were still polytheist after this. Marduk was just the
Yeah.
king of the gods, right? They still had moon gods and they still had star gods and such.
Were I'm trying to remember, were in the Bible or even historically, were the Jewish people ever part of Babylon or ever captured by them?
Yes, so that's going to be a huge portion of the Bible, actually, is kind of the wars that go on around them while they are trying to establish their Israel kingdom, right? So um, several times they flee or are conquered by Egypt. They either go to Egypt to live there or are conquered by Egypt and shipped there, or just go there, like I said, for sanctuary. Um,
Yeah.
then you also, like I said, you had the Assyrians that came through and captured a lot of this area, and the Jewish people were uh, under them for some time. Sumer conquered this area. Um, then, yes, Babylon conquers this area, and we will get to a huge portion of that because that's kind of when David, I think, is going on. You've got the United Kingdom of the northern Israel and the southern Israel, and then it splits, and you've got southern Israel and northern Israel, and Babylon comes and conquers northern Israel but leaves Judah. And that's where the, the 12 lost tribes, um, they are captured and taken away to Babylon, and that's where the lost tribes of Israel comes from. The only remaining tribe is the one that becomes Judaism. And that was because they were in the kingdom of Judah. So yes, Babylon takes that over, and then soon after that, the Persian army takes over this area, and Xerxes allows all of the Jewish people to go back to their homes and allows them to rebuild the temple, which is the second temple, which is kind of like the... actually, I think it's on the timeline here because it's such a big deal in their religion. Is the first temple is built by Solomon. Let's see, and then conquered... Yeah, Persians allow the Jews to return, and then the second temple is finished. Yeah, so that's all the way in 500. And then Alexander conquers them in 300, and they become kind of Greek. The Maccabean Revolt, 167. The second temple is rededicated. I believe this is the Talmud era. One way that this guy that came up with this chart here, this is from a YouTube channel called Useful Charts, and one thing that he brought up was that this 4,000 right here was preset by the priests that wrote this part of these stories in the Bible, right? They wanted these ages to add up to equal 4,000. So that on the 4,000th year is when they rededicated the second temple and the refounding of Judaism.
Oh, okay.
Where was I? Oh, King James. Yeah, we were just looking at the Bible. So, yeah. So they've had a lot of conquered. I need to get a little bit more specific in this timeline here. So this Yahwist, that's the J source that I spoke about. That's the earliest source of the Bible. Jerusalem destroyed by Babylonians.
Ouch. Sorry.
So let's see, where did that come up in the chart here? Yeah. Yeah, so I thought there was a lot more time between the first and second temple, but it looks like there was only not even 100 years. Interesting. Find out more about who conquered who at what point. But again, that's much further into the future. At this point, I guess we're talking about in their minds, this would have been all pre-Babylon, pre all of those empires that took them over. And I'm sure that they were just talking about the distant past without any specific date in mind, right? They just were saying, in the beginning, this is what happened. So that covers the first chapter there pretty easily, all the creation stuff. I think kind of got to what I wanted to do there, talking about the Enuma Elish and the differences between the waters and what made this story a little bit different than the other creation stories. Maybe why it stuck around. Anybody else? Do you have any other questions on this chapter 1? Do you want to talk about any other parts of it? I don't know. I'm really curious about this after his kind. I know that comes up a lot. Like, what does it mean when he says herb yielding seed after his kind? He mentions it a few other times. He's going to make the beasts after their kind. Yeah. Fruit yielding tree, fruit after his kind.
Well, I think part of that may be, I think when the mythos was written, and specifically you see it sometimes specifically with animals, and I think almost it's part of the Noah story, is when they classify things, it's to their understanding of how they see things. Like, for example, I think somewhere it mentions bats being classified as birds, whereas we don't do that because we know that bats are mammals and birds are avians. So it may be just from their perspective, and that it's just a broad thing as they understand it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like giving it a name. A name is a name is a name.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is just, yeah, at the time, it's, at least for me, I think it's just a matter of trying to remember their understanding of how everything was.
Right.
I think sometimes can give you an insight into what their perspective was.
Yeah, and the wording that they use.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on Facebook, babe?
No, not a lot of comments. I think I'm the only one in there right now.
Oh, okay.
Melissa said she was in and out.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that some people have come and gone.
Yeah.
We lost our Discord team, but that's okay too. We got Pete still here hanging out with us.
I like it.
Yeah.
Low key.
Okay. Ready to do the second?
Sure.
I'm gonna go use the bathroom if that's okay.
Okay. It's okay with me. You might need to start the dryer over too. So
Okay, let me grab some water. So this might be a quick time
we'll
to
take a quick pause. Yeah, I'll wait till you're
do
ready.
our thing.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Diane. Diane joined us on
Awesome.
Facebook. So I just created an email for us.
Oh, cool.
Tales from the Scrypture, and I added it to the Facebook group. We'll obviously add it to our notes, and that's the password
Okay.
so you can log on to it. That's a place we can start sending questions if somebody watches this later and has a question, whatever. Feel free to use that. I would like to also set up a really simple blog just for notes for us to kind of catch all and put in. So as soon as I don't know if Pete's back yet.
I'm back.
Okay. Then we're just ready to move on. Is there anything specific you want to say before we get started on the second chapter?
Chapter 2, no. Looks like we'll be getting to the day of rest and start of the Garden of Eden.
All right, here we go. Genesis chapter 2. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God formed a man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, that it is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. Apologies for pronunciation on that. And the gold of the land is good, and there is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, and that is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmeet. Excuse me, that's so hard to say.
Yeah.
And but for Adam was not found a helpmeet for him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, and the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. End chapter 2. You're welcome.
Good job.
Kind of bumbled through some of those pronunciations. Should have been more prepared.
Well, we had it recorded and then we didn't do it.
Yeah, we weren't prepared with that, but it's fine.
Okay. One interesting thing I wanted to point out, I don't know if it's obvious here, but up here we're talking just God in all of the first chapter, and then here we switch to Lord God. And I'm wondering if that's part of this Jehovah and Elohim authorship change.
That's interesting. Yeah, I noticed that too.
Because we switch back again, it looks like in the third chapter. Nope, they're saying Lord God.
Well, I
Keep an eye
mean,
on
could
that.
it be because shortly in Genesis 2, man's created, and finally God has somebody to lord over?
Yeah, to call him Lord, yeah. Perhaps.
But that's
Now,
true.
the one thing I find interesting here is and that's significantly different from other myths is what was it here? The seventh day. You know, far as I know, this is the only mythos I know that's, you know, specifically mention a period of rest after the gods created.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'm just kind of curious, you know, what the other ideas behind it is.
Yeah, me too. Look into that.
I mean, some of the other mythos, you know, the pre-generator gods are, you know, replaced or they're locked away. You know, like for example, the Greeks locked the Titans in Tartarus,
Yeah.
the Greek gods, when they took over. So I don't know. I'm just kind of curious, you know. And some of this, you know, like I said, I haven't touched some of looked at, you know, any of the religious scriptures in some time. So
Yeah, me neither.
you know, come back and you're kind of like, huh, what's that? You know.
I guess they have not been able to determine which river is the Pison because they've got it listed as 4 different rivers on 4 different maps. Interesting. I'm curious about those rivers that they brought up because I've never heard of them before.
I feel like I've heard the names before. Maybe that's
Right. I
just
mean,
from
you've heard the
reading this.
Euphrates.
Oh, right. Yeah, the Euphrates is easy. Yeah, the Tigris.
But honestly, it's about the only one I remember. And it's interesting that I always found it interesting, and maybe it's just something I imagine in my mind, how they define the boundaries of Eden by the rivers and stuff. You know, and it's interesting that they seem to give a very physical location to Eden, a very specific location, and they don't seem to ever, once Adam and Eve leave Eden, ever really come back to it.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, it's kind of highlighted because there's a belief in Mormons that the Garden of Eden actually existed someplace in the state of Missouri.
Right.
So, yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
The Gion is pretty easily located as well, according to my Google Maps, but...
Oh, you found one?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I think, yeah, it's pretty clear where they are. And I think just the fact that that area had places for farming, right? Before that, they were nomads. Tywin, can you really not be right there?
Come sit with Mama, you're fine. Lay down, you're fine.
Okay, so another interesting little thing I wanted to point out. I think we've created people already, right? So Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. And then in chapter 2 we create...
Woman specifically?
Yeah, right? Isn't this where we get the...
Yeah, rib.
Yep. He also talks about the tree of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a couple of videos I watched recently said there's a tree of life as well, and they're two separate trees. I did not know that. So
yeah, I kind of caught that when it said it. Hang on, where was it?
What was it about the trees? I didn't catch that.
There's the tree of knowledge, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the tree of life, and they're two separate trees.
Oh, okay. Well, can we talk about the trees and just kind of that
Yes.
whole thing now?
Absolutely.
Okay, so a couple things that I find interesting here is question one is why did God not want them to have the knowledge?
Right.
And for me, the strongest parallel that I can think of is in the Greek mythologies. Prometheus. When Prometheus gave fire to mortals, to humans, and it was viewed that he was given the power of the gods because fire was creation.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious to that. I mean, I'm just wondering if there's a little bit more to it than just kind of categorizing, Yahweh being a, jealous God, didn't want them to have the same knowledge, or what the idea was there.
Right, yeah.
I wonder if tree of life is reference to trees that they can eat from, meaning giving life or sustainability through the food, right, that they're allowed to eat from, and then the tree of knowledge being separate from that, right? Good and evil, like you cannot eat from this one.
So the tree of knowledge, if I remember right, that is what Eve ate from.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then the punishment, then supposedly if you ate from the tree of life, then you got mortality.
Right, exactly. Before that, we apparently lived or they would have apparently lived forever, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because he says if the day you eat from that tree is the day you will die. Right?
Yeah.
I missed that part. No, I said that. So it must
He
be
did.
true. So I think that's interesting that I don't know. It's putting that thumb on there immediately. I'm going to get some water. You need anything?
Can you refill mine too, please? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I've just never had a really good positive spin on that part of the story, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I've heard some, obviously I've heard a lot of arguments about it, but I feel like there were some good things about the I don't know, he expected them to do it, you know,
Well,
not as
I
a
mean,
setup, but
honestly,
as like letting them know that it was their choice.
yeah, I don't know, it's a problem because it brings up that question of, if God is all powerful, knows all, he would have known this would have occurred. So then why put the punishment if you know they're going to do it? So it really gets kind of murky for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it was a punishment or something he would have done anyway, right? Like, I don't know.
I
Let's
mean,
see, is he?
for me, I'm just trying to figure out from a cultural standpoint, whatever. I mean, because, I don't believe, I don't have any good reason to believe that this actually existed.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily trying to apply a motivation to a specific entity or whatever. I'm just kind of curious from a cultural standpoint why it's that way.
Right, yeah.
I mean, because the interesting thing is in the Greek mythos, Prometheus was punished and mankind wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, and they feel shame.
Right, that's exactly kind of what I'm kind of waiting
He
to
might
get
have
to.
said
Is
that.
no, not yet. No, but I'm
We haven't gotten there yet in the story, but
right. The last
that's
part
the
here is
first thing
saying,
I think about is not necessarily like mortality. It's the shame that they immediately feel.
yeah. Actually, I think I have a good short video on this. Let's see if I can pull it
But
up.
wasn't the shame because they were naked?
Right, they knew they were naked. Like, but they knew they were naked. I don't know. I feel like I
Which
always tied
which is
shame.
interesting unto itself
Right,
because that there's already a hang up about the human body or the
right,
exposing of the human body.
right.
All right, here's a little 7.5
The
minute
book of
thing.
Genesis
Can you hear
is the
it?
first book of the Bible, and its storyline divides into two main parts. There's chapters
I
1
can't,
through
as long as
11,
everybody
which
else
tell
can.
the story of God and the whole world. And then there's chapters 12 through 50,
I hear
which zoom in and
but I
tell the
heard
story of God and just one man, Abraham,
You
and
hear
then
what?
his family. And these two parts are connected.
something, but it may be the music.
Oh, did I?
I mean, if you want to link it
Yeah, you
in
can link it.
the
We can watch it
sources,
later.
I can check it out later.
Okay, totally. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I didn't know where you were going to head with any of this, so
No, yeah, that's part
I
of it
didn't
too.
necessarily prepare a whole lot.
by
Or
a
No,
hinge
that's the
story
point.
at
This
the
is
beginning
our
of
first
chapter
get together,
12.
so
And
we're
this
really
design, it gives us a clue to
interested
how
in
to
hearing what
understand the
people
message
wanna
of the book
hear
as a
about
whole
and,
and
you
how
know,
it introduces the story of the whole Bible.
different
yeah, I
ideas.
mean,
So the book
I
begins with God
from a
taking the
mythology
disorder
standpoint and
the
a culture
darkness
standpoint, I
described.
find this stuff interesting.
Definitely.
From a from a guidance for morality or a theological standpoint, yeah, not
Right.
super interested.
I think it's interesting for context, the
Yeah.
morality of it all, and the historical side of it. Why was this decided on? What was happening
Mhm.
that this was needed for?
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of more our interest in it, at least at this point.
Yeah.
And for me, it's interesting because I don't have a pony in the race anymore, so
Hmm.
I don't care where it leads. Wherever it leads me is where it leads
The
me.
second sentence of the
Right.
Bible, and God
That's
brings
kind of
out
fun.
of it
Yeah,
order,
no, we like
and
it. We
beauty,
like all the
and
input.
goodness. He makes a
don't want to
world
be the
where
only
life
people
can
talking in
flourish.
these kinds of
And God
forums,
makes
so
these
we're grateful
creatures
to have
called
another
humans or Adam.
patient
in
voice.
Hebrew.
Yeah.
He makes them in his image, which has to do with their role and purpose in God's world. So the humans are made to be reflections of God's character out into the world, and they're appointed as God's
this,
representatives
thing that I
to
just put in the
rule his
sources,
world on his
It's
behalf.
one of them that I was telling
Which in
Courtney about. They're,
context
like,
means to harness all of
overfunded.
its potential, to
They're
care
really,
for
really
it,
high
and make it a
quality
place where
videos.
even more life can flourish. God blesses the humans. It's a key word in this book. And he gives them a garden. It's like a place from which they begin starting to build this new world. Now, the key is that the
Feel free to
humans
carry
have a
on
choice
chatting. I
about
think that's
how
kind of
they're going to go about building
Oh,
this
I guess
world,
that-
and that's represented by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Up till
I just
now,
wanted to hear what
God
his point
has
was, 'cause I remember
provided and
liking it.
defined what is good and what is not
On
good.
the
But now
shame
God
or
is
the-
giving the humans
Both.
the
Yeah, 'cause he brings
dignity
them
and
up
the freedom
together.
of a choice. Are they going to trust God's definition of good and evil, or are they going to seize autonomy and define good and evil for themselves? And the stakes are really high. To rebel against God is to embrace death, because you're turning away from the giver of life himself. This is represented by the tree of life. And so in chapter 3, a mysterious figure, a snake, enters into the story. The snake's given no introduction other than it's a creature that God made. And it becomes clear that it's a creature in rebellion against God, and it wants to lead the humans into rebellion and their death. The snake tells a different story about the tree and the choice. It says that seizing the knowledge of good and
Yeah.
evil are not going to bring death, that it's actually the way to life and becoming like God themselves. Now, the irony of this is tragic, because we know the humans, they're already like
So
God.
I don't
They
know
were
how
made
much
to
you got
reflect God's
into
image. But instead of trusting God, the humans seize
polytheism
autonomy,
aspect.
they take
But
the
if I
knowledge of good and evil
remember
for themselves, and in an
correctly,
instant, the whole story
this puts kind
spirals
of an
out of
interesting
control. The
spin
first
on
casualty
the
is
creation
human
mythos.
relationships. The
And
man
for
and
me,
the
it
woman,
becomes
they
a little
suddenly
bit more
realize
apparent
how
later on
vulnerable they are.
in the Old Testament. But, it's believed that Yahweh was the war god. So once again, I'm kind of wondering if the priesthood of Yahweh kind of overtook the other myths, or, just recast the characters,
I'm certain they did, only because to introduce a new god would have been so difficult, right? Like, I feel like it would be easier to come into a community or a city that you've conquered or what have you, and you're trying to introduce your god. You would use their god's name and say, no, it's the same, but he didn't do those other things. He did this, right? But
Yeah.
like merging the gods so that their god is your god, is all God, kind of thing.
Are. Now, they can't even trust each other. And so they make clothes and they hide their bodies from one another.
It's a curious.
The second
different
casualty
thought.
is that intimacy between God and the humans is lost. So they
Kinda
go
selecting
run and
which
hide
God you
from
want out of
God,
the
and then when God finds them, they start this
poly.
game of blame shifting about who rebelled first. Now, right here, the story stops, and there's a series of short poems where God declares to the snake and then to the humans
Well, one of the interesting
tragic
things
consequences
that I
of their
think,
actions. God first
and I'm
tells the
probably
snake that despite
generalizing a little
its
bit here,
apparent victory,
but
it
the
is destined
polytheist
for
cult
defeat,
or
to eat dust.
polytheist
God
religions
promises that one day a
seem to
seed or a
possibly
descendant will come
be
from the woman who's going to deliver a lethal
less likely
strike
to
the
generate
snake's head,
fanatics,
which sounds like great news, but
a level of fanaticism. Because the Greeks are pretty chill, as far as how they viewed other gods, within the pantheon and stuff.
Yeah. One of these topics that I've seen come up, especially in the polytheism versus the monotheism, is the idea that gods could die, and how new that idea was, how old that idea was versus this God that Yahweh or whatever we want to call him. He couldn't die. He was all powerful, all being, whereas all gods kind of before that were. They were born. They could die. They influenced each other. You could win a battle against a god. They were not all powerful, and they were not all living, and they were not all good. Right? Some gods were immoral. Some gods were amoral.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at the Greek pantheon and just the stories and stuff, and they seem to be almost as human as humans.
Yeah. Whereas with
as far
this
as what
story, we have a whole separate line, right? Like I thought the Bible was about God and about what He wanted us to do, but the more I'm getting into it, the more it's about the story of the people who worship God, and how God came back to them when they needed it, and why they should have listened to Him the whole time. Because a whole lot of this is people defying God, right? Like it's going to be a repeated story of people eating from the tree of good and evil. I was just reading an interesting story about David earlier, where he I guess he either raped or slept with his subordinate's wife, and then sent that subordinate out into battle and kind of pushed him into the spot where he would be the first in line to battle, so that when he died, he could go back and marry that guy's wife. Like,
Yep.
that's David. You know, there are fucking statues of that guy.
Well, I'm wondering.
He's a huge,
Well, I mean, because
iconic biblical person, and I thought that he should have been, paragon of good and evil, but none of these people are, right? That's not what the
well,
Bible
didn't
is about.
he, if I remember right, David, didn't he, because I don't think they had, what's the word I'm hunting for? Didn't he kind of mend his ways and was, lack of a better term, brought back into God's grace?
Multiple times, yeah. He falls from grace, and he returns to God's grace, and he does things bad again, and he comes back to God. But yeah, I think the Psalms are largely attributed to him. And I don't know, we'll hopefully get to the Psalms at a certain point, but those are
No, ma'am. Go back to bed. Bed. Go.
a lot of apologetics in there, right? A lot of, I screwed up, God, please help me.
Well, I'm just kind of wondering too, I always kind of keep in the back of my mind that, I think some of the stuff in this, I got kind of remember that the priests had a interest in remaining in power. So I'm just kind of wondering, how often, where they brought forth that you're, evil before the eyes of God, whether the people were or not, just so they could maintain their power grasp.
Yeah.
And I've kind of always felt there might have been a degree of that going on, about the time of Exodus and stuff.
Maybe. Exodus is really, really early, though, because in Exodus there probably are still some priests, but shit, they're still in the desert. They don't have temples yet. They don't have idols, right? They don't have a place to call their home. But much further on, like in Judges and Kings, I think we will absolutely get into that point where all throughout history it's been a case where you've had religion and the king or the empire, and they work together to rule over the people, right? And they influence.
Well, I'm thinking. So yeah, I mean, I'm really kind of looking forward to Exodus because I find that kind of interesting because here until recently, probably I don't know, the last 5-6 years, maybe a little bit longer, but kind of came to, I didn't realize that there's very little proof or there's no historical proof that the Exodus ever occurred.
Right.
Which brings up some interesting things, that anyhow, we're kind of off point there a bit, but anyhow, we're Genesis chapter 2?
Yeah.
Tree of knowledge.
Right. Creation of man, and their lordship over all beasts of the field. I'm always kind of curious about that line as well. Is like,
I wonder if beasts of the field meant what they viewed at the time as domesticated beasts, like goats, cows, horses, or what became.
Yeah. Adam gave.
Do you have anything in your research that said what beasts of the field meant?
No, I haven't gotten to that point yet. Most of what I've been looking at has been the timelines. Very generic. I haven't gotten into any specific words or times, or I'm sorry, words or lines. So not quite yet. I'd also be curious, the land that, and the gold of that land is good, and the bdellium and onyx stone. I wonder if that means something different then, than it does now. Like, I'm wondering if the bdellium and onyx stone might be the stuff to make bronze, tin, and copper.
Maybe.
Um,
Let's see.
or if those are actual things. Is bdellium and onyx stone. I know onyx stone is real, but I wonder if they're talking about the same thing.
It's a gum resin, according to Wikipedia.
Bdellium is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wonder what it was used for.
Let's see. Precious stone or crystal.
Okay. It was just valuable.
Yeah.
I feel like 2 and 3 kind of go close enough together that we can go ahead and read 3 and discuss the tree of knowledge, right?
Knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, let me get back up.
No,
to
no,
it.
no. I don't mean to rush you.
No, just let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. What do you think, Peter? You still there? Do you want to?
Anything else we?
Yeah. No. I am waiting with bated breath to get to the serpent.
All right, well, sit tight. We're jumping into it. All right, here we go. Genesis chapter 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. Excuse me. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? How hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? And the man said, The woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. Blah, blah, blah. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. And to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall bring it forth to thee, and thou shalt eat of the herb of the earth, of the field, excuse me. In the sweat of thy face, excuse us, Edith jumped up. Dustin is taking care of it. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothed them. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. Therefore, the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Ugh, that was a mouthful. Okay, Dustin had to go take over with Ethan. I'm going to trade with him really fast since this is his thing. He will be back. I will be back in a minute. So,
Okay.
here, Dustin, let's trade. Okay, you go ahead. I'll trade.
Sorry, guys. We thought if we started this early enough, or sorry, late enough, we'd get her down, but not yet.
Yeah, they seldom kind of follow the plan like
Right.
that.
Okay, where were we? All done with chapter 3?
Yeah, she read chapter 3.
Perfect. I was here for some of that with the hiding themselves.
Yeah, I definitely need to read up a little bit more on that because I'm just really curious. Why the idea of knowledge is associated with recognizing you're naked.
Yeah, and part of what I keep finding is that it's not the knowledge, it's the knowledge of good and evil. So it's not just the tree of like knowing things, it's the tree of knowing the difference between good and evil.
Well, one of the interesting things, and it did specifically say in it that and I don't remember specific wording, but the knowledge of good and evil as the God or as God.
Right, yeah.
So I mean, so it is almost real similar to, in broad terms to the Prometheus story.
Right, yeah. The serpent saith to the woman, Ye shall surely not die, for God know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
So one of the interesting things that within my last since last time, or that I've learned since I left religion, was one of the interesting things with this story is they just refer to the serpent, and most Christians will believe that the serpent is Satan, but he's not mentioned as that in the story.
Right. I don't.
Whereas that's. I don't know if he's even mentioned by name in the Old Testament.
Satan stood up against Israel.
Okay,
of the
that'll be interesting then.
judges or something. No, skate book 13. Chronicles, maybe Chronicles 1. 18. So that's all Job. Yeah, that makes sense. Job is in Satan is in Job a lot. Yeah, that's a long time before we see Satan.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, just kind of interesting. So I just think a lot of times since it just seemed like Yahweh ran out, won the popularity contest, and then his rivals became the bad people in the story.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing for me with the serpent is in a lot of cultures, the snake is looked as as a creature of wisdom and
Interesting.
knowledge. I mean, think about it. Even what do they call it, Chaldeus or whatever, uh, the staff that Hermes had has snakes on it.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think I ever noticed
Yeah,
that.
because
Yeah.
I know in a lot of African cultures, snake is a counselor and wisdom and stuff.
Oh, I wonder if it has to do with this story. How I spell knowledge. What the fuck?
Get back in that bed. Get back in the bed. Now. Get up here. Go to sleep. Say no to me. Then lay down. Do not make me jealous. Stop it.
And fertility symbols. And the snake dancing Pentecostals or whatever they are.
Lay down. Lay down.
Yeah. Huh. Good God. 4,000 to 3,000 BC. Very interesting. Yeah, and another thing that this video that I was watching brought up that someone from her line would bruise the head of the snake, and the snake would bruise his heel. And then he tells the woman, "I will multiply thy sorrow and conception, bringing forth children will be painful," basically. I wonder what this is. In sorrow thou In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Maybe that he didn't have to eat before that.
Yeah, I don't think if I remember correctly, it's thought that the idea that they didn't have to eat, sleep, or do any of that
Yeah.
prior to the tree of knowledge, because that'd be part of being mortal.
Right. Okay, I got you. That makes sense. And you be pained if you don't eat. Yeah.
But there's another interesting thing here because they are given the commandment that they were supposed to go forth and populate. But at the same time, too, they weren't supposed to eat of the tree of knowledge, but they couldn't go forth and populate until they ate from the tree of knowledge. Oh, I'm sorry. My wife just told me that was a Mormon idea.
Oh.
So yeah, that's a Mormon belief, which
Oh,
which
interesting.
puts kind of a different spin on it, you know.
Absolutely. So is that a different? Do they have a different Genesis?
No, that is actually a Mormon belief. So
Huh.
yeah, that may be something that's out of the Pearl of Great Prize.
Interesting for sure.
But that adds kind of a whole new level of trying to figure out what the motivation behind the story is.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, being Joseph Smith, it probably had something to do with sex or control. So
So the tree of life and eat and live forever. God said, "Behold, man has become as one of us." So he kicked him out of the Garden of Eden, right?
now, are you familiar with Good Omens, the book, or did you happen to see the series on Hulu?
No, I didn't. I don't think I even knew it was a book. But no, I haven't watched the series either.
I think you would like it a lot. The book was written by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, and then, like I said, Hulu did a five-part series of the book. And anyhow, one of the great things I love from it, Osfriel, which is, I believe, one of the angels mentioned in the book, he was the cherub or the angel in charge for guarding the gate of Eden. So in Good Omens, he actually gave Adam and Eve his flaming sword.
Oh, this sword here,
Not that that's
maybe?
any religious thing, but I just always thought that was kind of humorous.
Yeah. Interesting. Huh. I might have to take a break to go help Courtney.
Touch the bottom.
Do not get out of that bed. Get back in 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 bed.
But yeah, it wasn't until after that she conceived anyway.
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned timeline-wise, was the city of Troy around at this time?
Yes. Um, so Troy, not at the time of creation, I guess, but
Yeah, no, I get
Troy.
that. So
Yeah,
that'd be slightly problematic if it was.
yeah. Well, I mean, Uruk was around apparently, which is a smaller kingdom, but it was around for a really long time in prehistory. Um, but I'm curious about this because the first thing that we have that's like has history written down are these Egyptians, as far as I know. But these are all kind of cool too. Like the Potter's Wheel is created in 3200, and then this red one is Troy. It was founded somewhere in the 29th or 30th century. It lasted a long time too.
Well, I mean, do they? Because I was trying to think out, and I may be wrong. I don't know if they found it yet. But at one time, I thought they didn't have any historical proof of Troy.
For a long time they did not. Yeah. Until very recently.
As an interesting side note, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, as an odd side note, is have you played any of the Total War
A little
Troy?
bit. Not enough to have any comment on it really. Um, I've played maybe 2 battles,
Okay.
so not much.
Yeah, I really haven't done anything with it other than get my free copy of it from the Epic Store.
Right. Yeah. Me too. I think I played it for like a couple hours that day.
Yeah. Yeah, right now, I mean, honestly, gaming wise, about the only thing that's trying to get through Borderlands 3 right now.
Ah, that's a good one.
Waiting for all the bugs to get out of Cyberpunk before I pick it up.
No kidding. Sounds like I might need to wait till the first sale.
Yeah, and I still got Outlands to play, or Outer World. I'm not hurting for things to do.
Yeah, I've been playing some Halo recently. That's been pretty fun.
Yeah, I picked up the Master Collection, so
Yeah, we should play.
I just gotta find all the stuff for my controller.
Oh yeah, I play keyboard and mouse.
I'll try it again. I mean, initially, I played the first Halo actually on the Xbox,
Yeah.
but my preferred method's still keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, it's good. Um, I finally got Red Dead to work again recently. Also,
The first one?
Red Dead 2, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, okay.
I had some issues where it was crashing during one of the missions, but I finally got it working again yesterday.
Just hardware issue, or?
Yeah, a little bit. I had a monitor cable that was bad.
Oh, really? And that was causing it to crash. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was like it would just hiccup just a little bit, and it would cause my video card to spike, and that would crash the game.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm happy to have that up and ready.
No, it doesn't surprise me because we ended up finally getting moved out to Hutto.
Oh, really?
And so instead of running dual monitors on the CMM computers, they just bought, big wraparound, the curved ones.
Yeah.
And anyhow, they didn't have the right cable they needed. So they were just running, instead of the installed card, they were just running the onboard graphic card. And on one of the machines, it was actually crashing the CMM program with a runtime error.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I can definitely believe that it would cause you problems.
Yeah.
I don't know. Personally, I'm still amazed that PCs even work as well as they do. I mean, there's such a hodgepodge of people making them and stuff. I mean, I
Yeah.
realize they're standards, but uh, I'm still pleasantly surprised it works as well as it does.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm out.
Sorry, baby. We've been fighting with Edith.
Lay
laying
down.
in her bed. She just wants to argue with me
Yeah.
the whole thing.
No. You don't need to apologize at all. I remember those days. Not at all.
Okay, so do we want to go ahead and go to 4? It's a pretty short one.
Sure.
We'll have Brother's Keeper.
Oh, the Cain and Abel story.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so we're gonna have some kid action now that they're done with the knowledge of good and evil. All right, here we go. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? And thou doest well. Shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. And when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bare Enoch. And he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad. And Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methuselah, and Methuselah begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Ada bare Jabal, and was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jabal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and the sister Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, surely Lamech 70 and sevenfold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God, said she, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. Okay, there's a little bit more here than I initially expected, I think. For one, there's more.
So do you want to hear the interesting Mormon take on this?
Absolutely, let's get it.
So their belief is the mark of Cain is dark skin.
Okay, I have heard that before, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of slightly racist. Yeah, there's lines in the Book of Mormon of how people were white and delightsome. So my interesting take on this all is so Cain gets whatever sent away. God says anybody who kills Cain or whatever will bad things will happen to them, but then he kicks them out too. When you're going through this, did they have an explanation of it?
Not so much there. More that I fell into was this other guy, Lamech, because he basically says, if Cain was so bad, look at me. I've had a bunch of wives and I've killed several people. So if Cain shall be avenged, I shall be avenged even more.
Well, yeah, but to me, and the way it's presented is Cain. I've always took that Cain's was so bad because not necessarily. I mean, not that killing his brother was a good thing, but what really caused anger was the fact that he killed Abel because he was jealous of Abel and Abel's offering to God.
Yeah.
So maybe with that in mind, then maybe would you say the other guy's name was Lamech?
Yeah, Lamech.
Lamech. So maybe Lamech's, at least the way the story goes, is wasn't as bad as God. Or his offenses were definitely not that bad.
Maybe, yeah. Coming back up here to Cain, I guess. Let's see, what does it say? Rose up against Abel and slew him. What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When you till the ground, it shall not henceforth yield under your strength. A fugitive and a vagabond you will be in the earth. And then Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have cast me out from the face of the earth, and from thy face I shall hide, and I'll be a fugitive. The Lord said, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. Yeah, I'm not sure why he said that.
I'll write myself a note. I need to look that up. I'm really curious. I think about it.
Oh, there goes the camera. 1 second.
So if you don't mind me asking, are you trying to amend things up a little bit between you and your father in this regard? I'm here. No, and don't sweat it all, guys. I know how that goes.
So one side of the
It's
conversation.
one side of the conversation. I'm gonna take a
Ah,
break for a minute. Let me know if the TV is too loud in there.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Alrighty.
I just need it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a short break in a minute also.
Okay.
Maybe after the next verse, because that'll be 5. I'll be halfway to 10.
I mean, do you want to, because this is taking a bit, do you just want to cut this at 5 and we can continue?
We'll
It
see. I
might give
still
me a
have
chance to look at some of this for a little bit.
yeah, I still have a couple of other people that I think may
Okay.
come in. And I'd like to get through 10 if I can, but we'll see. It depends also on the baby.
Yeah, no, I know how it goes. And don't feel bad about it all. I understand. It happens. Sometimes it's like herding cats.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But it's worth it. It gets fun. When
Definitely,
they start
definitely.
becoming their own little people, it's amazing.
Yeah, we have a good time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, another question that I had when I first was rereading this is about the Cain being the tiller of the ground and Abel being a herder, and God specifically preferring the sacrifices of the animals over the offerings of the land, right? It makes me wonder, well, I'm sure that they also gave offerings of grains and such at those
Well,
religious
my
events.
take on it is kind of this, because I'm wondering, at this point, were they still fairly transient? Maybe when this portion was written, so they tended to, since you're going from area to area, which was usually in the care of livestock, feeding them and stuff. Maybe they weren't farmers, and this was just kind of their morality tale of how, herder type cultures are so much better than farming type cultures.
Yeah, exactly. The respect levels, how much different the culture change was and everything, and
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, so Jamie is watching us along in Facebook, and she was asking about the mark of Cain. So I was pulling that up here. That um, certain people have attributed that, and I don't know that there's ever been any direct lines anywhere pointed to as saying such, but
Wow, no, the Mormons were pretty blatant about it.
yeah,
Of that, and I know what you're saying. Most of the Christian faiths I was familiar with or took part of, prior to becoming Mormon, were still kind of ambiguous what the mark of Cain meant.
right.
You know,
I, I I can't imagine. Yeah, here I think that my take on all of this is that these are different lineages or um, tribes, right? Like I'm pretty sure Lamech was an actual town.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of always been part
Right. All
of
of these are.
older cultures. Lineage is always important. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you think of surnames. Surnames were, that we use now. In uh, a large part of the world stem from the belief of I am the son of this person or that person.
Right. I mean,
You
even
know.
Jesus claimed his lineage all the way back to David.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's kind of where when he casts Cain out, I just assume that he casts him maybe out to the desert, away from the good
Uh,
earth,
I
earth,
think he
and
was just had to leave. I think he just had to leave. I always, well, at least I always took it as he just had to leave being around his parents and
the
family.
society. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Cain goes and conceives and bears Enoch, and they build a city named Enoch. And then Lamech comes from that line. Okay, so basically establishing that that line was bad, right? Um, and then Adam has another son named Seth, and Seth will be important shortly. I think that isn't Moses from the line of Seth? Okay, this is where I get really lost though, because here in chapter 5 is where we're going to get a bunch of begats and.
I don't know. I tend to kind of gloss over that one a bit.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I kind of, bunch of people had a bunch of kids. Yay.
Yeah, so here's what we're about to, I think, listen to is Seth was born when Adam was 130, and then Enosh was born when Seth was 105, and so that's how they come up with the flood occurs when Noah was 600 years old.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff's interesting. Yeah, all the begat part is interesting just to kind of add up the years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, which is
Yeah, it says
clearly
in
not the
the,
intention. It's
the
just
last line was, and Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
yeah. Um, I think soon enough we're going to get to the point where God says, "Okay, enough is enough. You can't live past 120." But that will come later, because yeah, there's Methuselah. He'll be the oldest person to ever live, apparently. Okay, we pretty good with the Cain and Abel. Do you have anything else? Did you want to?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Like I said, I'm gonna, if I get a chance, I'm gonna look up a little bit and then see if there's better explanation of the curse of Cain.
Right, yeah.
Why if you killed Cain, it'd be visited upon you sevenfold.
Right, yeah. It's curious, for
Because
sure.
you kind of think that you would be good with that, but
Yeah, like he had it coming, kind of thing.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, Genesis chapter 5. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, and the day that they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begat a son in his own likeness, after his own image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and begat Enos. And Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years, and begat Canaan. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years, and begat Mahalalel. And Canaan lived after he begat Mahalalel 840 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel lived 65 years, and begat Jared. And Mahalalel lived after he begat Jared 830 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and begat Enoch. And Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 887 years and begat Lamech. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This name shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. And Lamech lived, after he begat Noah, 595 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, again, more stuff in here than I expected, but we can still skip a good portion of it. But one thing I wanted to point out here was that Enoch is one of the only other people in the Bible that I know of that doesn't die. For whatever reason, he is picked out of these people and is taken to heaven directly with God.
Yeah, in Mormondom, yeah, that's not all that uncommon.
For God to
Usually, great people of great prophets, stuff like that, was common for that to happen.
Yeah. I think it happens a couple more times, but it's very rare. In this copy. Another thing I wanted to wonder is if this Lamech is the same as this Lamech who bragged about having a bunch of wives and killing people, because it looks like that's Noah's dad.
Somewhere didn't they talk about the guy bragging about the wives? That version, don't they talk about his passing before they mention Noah's dad?
Oh, maybe so. Yeah, up here somewhere.
I thought it did.
Let's see. Oh man, the format on this page is terrible. Okay, yeah, it doesn't say here whether it's the same. The fifth lineal descendant from Cain. Yeah, it says he's both the father of Noah and that other.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, down here it lists them separately. First mentioned in 4:18:24, here Lamech is the son of Methushel. Oh, that's a good way to find out. Do they have the same parents? Lamech. Where does he come in? Methuselah begat Lamech, and then down here we've got Lamech. Methuselah begats. Oh, you know what? I bet this is one of those doubles. What do they call them there? What this book that I was talking about with the different authors? Doublets, where two stories are the exact same, written by two different authors. So let's see here what we've got. So we have Cain and Abel is written by the judges in 4:1 to 4:16, which we did earlier. And then from 4:17 to 4:26 is Cain's genealogy. also written by the judges. No, not judges, by Jehovah. By the Jehovah author. Sorry. So 4:17 through 26. Okay, so this is all written by one author, and then we pick up with the revisionist. So somebody else added these lines in after, is what this book tells me. He added 5 to 28. And then we go back to J for the rest of this. So it probably is the same Lamech, just told by two different authors. And down here they don't make mention of his being a bad guy, so I'm curious if there's more to that story. Partly because over here, later in this
But
story,
this
they
victory
talk
is
about
going to come with a cost, because this they wanted, and they produced the
This guy.
Nephilim, these great warriors of old. Whichever view is
But anyway, I'm sure we'll get to that at another point. Okay, so 6, we will go back to the Jehovah writing author. He seems to be pretty prevalent in this beginning area. It's very interesting. So this guy posits that all of these numbers were added in by a priest sometime later in the Jewish religion. Still really, really early, 500 years before Christ. What else did we see in here? Excuse me. All these people living and having sons and daughters. I guess just populating the earth. And called his name Noah, saying, "This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands." It's curious. What do you think?
In regards to what we talked about.
Yeah, of chapter 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's learned a couple things there. To me, it's always been one of those ones where, once I added up all the numbers to get an idea of dates and stuff, it just, didn't mean a whole lot to me beyond that.
Right.
I've already seen answer Jamie's question on Facebook.
She asked
But
me about...
I didn't. I'm way behind.
Yeah, I pulled it up on the screen. It was just
All I needed to know.
Okay. Thank you, baby. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying? Yeah,
No. Yeah.
So this is what we just covered. Shan was born when he was 500, and then the flood will occur in 100 years from where we are currently. All right, I need to go use the restroom and take a short break. You good for a minute?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, cool.
I will be here.
Sweet. I'll be back in just a few minutes, and we'll pick up on chapter 6. Get to the exciting flood parts. What happened?
Are you in that group text?
Oh, I don't think so. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm really tempted to text them and be like, we're sick of coming to Houston for Christmas. We're staying here. We'll see you when we see you.
Yeah, we can talk about it later.
Oh, are you back on?
Yeah, I'm just not getting back in. But I think I'm live.
You are.
Okay, chapter 6. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the earth, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, and the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without the pit with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou, and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. And of every living thing of all flesh 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, and of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. And take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah, according to all that God commanded him, so did he. All right, there's a lot in this one too.
So when you're going through, did you happen to pick up anything on verse 4?
No,
Because
about the
that's kind of
giants.
interesting. Well, read it. It says, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughter of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which of old men of renown. So to me, it's always been a little out of place because God talks about his spirit being with man and,
Yeah.
gives you a life thing. And then immediately goes, God saw the wickedness of man. So the interesting thing here is, and I'm not sure what the exact origin is, if it's referenced in other books of the Bible, or it's some type of possibly, Catholic mythology or Christian mythology. But the belief here is then the sons of God and their descendants were what they call the Nephilim. So I don't know, I always thought that was kind of interesting, but it just, to me, it sticks out because it just doesn't fit the flow of what's going on here.
Yeah.
Because he's setting up things are bad on earth, and here's Noah who's, perfect, and he walks with God and he gives him these instructions. So I always thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if if the writers were setting up that as an explanation of why these race of giant men are no longer on the earth. But we knew, I think, is there any reference to Goliath being related to these, or was just Goliath just large? You
Goliath was
know?
just large as far as I can tell. And
Yeah.
here for
So,
what you're talking about for this particular book about where these authors split the difference here. So yeah, there is a split at verse 4. Um, so from 6:1 to 6:4, that is all the one who considers it Jehovah. Oh, he
uh-huh.
continues after that too, all the way up to 8. And then from 8, we switch to a different one. So this is all one author. And then we switch to the priests from here all the way to here to 22. So 2 different authors here. Or at least they pieced 2 stories together, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that there was a split here, but I guess not. But yeah, it kind of sounds to me like there were men and there were gods or demons kind of on the earth, right? Like giants or whatever. And that they were commingling. Is that what this is
Well,
saying?
that's why I take it, and the reason I actually stumbled to, or kind of was aware of this was, this is going to sound weird, but Blizzard's game Diablo, um, specifically the most recent uh, volume of it, Diablo 3. Basically, you find out that the character you're playing is a Nephilim. And this is where the origin comes from. In Diablo, the Nephilim are a mixture of humans, devils, or demons. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And if I remember right, there might be an equivalent of this in Muslim or Islam, excuse me.
Yeah.
But and once again, it's interesting because for me, I can't help but identify the parallel in Greek mythology. Whereas probably the most well-known example, of someone who was God and human was Hercules.
Right. And Jesus, I guess. Um,
That one gets a lot more complicated um, because in Mormondom and I think some Christian faiths, the belief is Jesus is God.
yeah. Yeah, that's
There's also, yeah, and then yeah, that one gets really kind of funky.
yeah. The
You know,
Catholic one is that uh, Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit are all
yeah,
together the same separate but equal. I don't know, like you said, it's complicated. Um, but yeah, this line definitely does stand out as old world, is the way I would refer to it. Whereas the rest of this is kind of fitting the rest of the vibe of the Bible. It's
Well, at
all
least from
set.
that perspective,
Right, that's what I mean
you know,
exactly.
the
From the
the
perspective of
morality story.
right. Um, Whereas this, I feel like may be setting up the evil a little more than it needed to. It was kind of hammering that point home that there were the people that God killed weren't actually people. They were these Nephilims, right? They were some other being. God wouldn't kill people; He would kill these evil
No,
beings.
and I see, and I don't get that from it.
Right? No, I think it's
It to me, they talk about the Nephilim, and it's just like, okay, back to the story.
yeah. Let's get back to the arc.
That's probably one of the things that's kind of neat to read up on a little bit more. You know,
There sure are a lot of them in here. Um, yeah. And then so yeah, we move on to God saw the wickedness of the earth and it grieved him. He's going to destroy all the beings. And then we jump right into Noah's sons. I guess I just wanted to bring that up again. They just said it right here.
oh, and I just want to point out when I think of Noah, I don't think of Russell Crowe. To me, Noah's always been like maybe more Tommy Chung.
I still haven't seen the Russell Crowe thing, so it doesn't fit me at all. When I was looking up pictures for Noah, it kept bringing him up, and I was like, why is he coming up?
Yeah, it is a not very good movie.
Can imagine. I need to go back and watch the Charlton Heston Moses movie.
Yeah, Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so funny, even, and maybe just because of, even as a kid, I remember watching that. Especially around the holidays for some reason, and even now, I maybe it's just the memories of that. So I do tend to have a little bit of a fondness for that movie.
Yeah.
You know,
Pretty iconic.
and then it's you get to see Yul Brynner and eye makeup. You get you get to see the big C made out of oatmeal. No, it was oatmeal.
I didn't know that.
Was
That's
part of
funny.
it. Sorry, Andrea was in here talking to her. Oh,
All right, then we go description of the ark.
so one question for you. So when you're looking up at this, was there any reason why they mentioned gopher wood? I've never even heard of gopher wood except here. There's
No,
some special properties about it or something.
no, I didn't. I haven't brought that up at all. Oh, gopher wood.
Okay.
Some unidentified tree. It's only used here, apparently. Yeah, interesting. It's unknown, basically, from what I can tell. Yeah, he gets super specific about the size and shape and what all he's going to bring on there. And then I feel like he does it again in just a minute. He's going to say he wants 7 clean and 2 unclean or something. But we'll see that in just a moment. Which is, again,
Yeah, very clean piece.
the doublets.
Just so you know, I'm just kind of reading ahead a little bit
Yeah,
here.
I'm about to read it right now. I just wanted to double check I didn't miss.
The 40 days and 40 nights wasn't literal. It's basically an expression that means a very long time.
Interesting.
Was something I read once, so.
Yeah. Okay, here, I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 7. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two the male and his female. Of fowls also of the air by sevens the male and the female, to keep seed alive on the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from the face of the earth. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife, and his sons' wives with him, into the ark, because of the waters of the flood. Of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of every living thing that creepeth on the earth, there went in 2 by 2 unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, in the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of the heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with him into the ark. They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, and every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased, and bare the ark, and it was lift up above the earth. And the waters prevailed, and were increased greatly upon the earth. And the ark went upon the face of the waters, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth. And all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle, and of beast, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. And all those nostrils was the breath of life. Of all that was in the dry land died, and every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Okay, he's sure driving that point home that, I don't know, they followed the Lord's commandment and he flooded the earth. Said that about 6 different times. Come thou, all thy house into the ark. Yeah, he's basically just telling everybody to get on the ark. It was 600 when the flood of the waters was upon the earth. Let's see, what did we say back here?
Do we still have macaroni and cheese? The microwave one? Can I get that
So
one?
yeah, this is all one author apparently. Oh no, excuse me. We do jump around. This is in 7, so let's see here, 7 through 5. Wow. We are jumping all over the place here.
What, in regards to who the authors were?
Yeah. So
That's not too surprising.
13 is apparently, okay, P. All the way here is both, and then back here, and then, yeah, back here one more time, and then I think think the rest of this is all J. Nope, this one's P. Okay. So J calls God Yahweh, and P is the priests from some shortly later period. And it looks like they kind of mixed it in. So here he's saying 2 by 2. Thought I saw 7 in here somewhere.
Is in regards to animals?
Yeah, 7 clean and yeah, here
Yeah,
we go.
it's
So J says that
verse
it's
4.
7 and 2.
Let's see, verse 4.
P says
Yeah.
it's 2 by 2. Interesting.
So as a whole, is there any what's the word I'm hunting for? Is there, just from a cultural standpoint, non-religious standpoint, why is there a story of the flood?
There's not one particularly for this, but there were definitely floods in Babylon and in the area. And there's a epic. I want to say even the Epic of Gilgamesh has a flood in it. It's really hard to research this because there's so many apologetic websites that are
Yeah.
really trying to push an agenda.
Well, I don't think, or I found out later that because I've heard, Christian apologetics say that the flood myth is, oh, it's in every culture, but it isn't. And when you think about like the Egyptians, I think even to a certain degree the Babylonians was, they got large because of agriculture,
Right.
which was tied them to a water source like a river.
Right.
And those things would flood occasionally, time to time.
Yeah, and
So,
if you look at any great civilization, water is, they have to be within a certain distance of running water.
yeah. So once again, too, I'm just kind of wondering, whereas the Jewish people, especially at this time, were a nomadic people, I believe. Once again, I'm just kind of wondering if it's that jab at farmers again. That I
Right.
think
Yeah.
started with the Cain and Abel.
Right. Totally. And yeah, definitely at this point, this is pre-Jew. This is just people. These are not Jewish people, right? These are just
They're not, but
right. No, I agree. It's their
I'm
culture.
using that for lack of a better term, and I don't remember what they were called at this time, unfortunately. And technically Hebrew people would probably be more, more accurate instead of saying Jewish.
Right.
But you know what I'm getting at, the tribe of people that formed this.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure that this flood story is very similar to the others. Like you said, I think that all civilizations, especially the major ones, needed a major water source nearby, and it would make sense that it would be sprung from some I don't want to say mythical or magical, but really their source, maybe, or creating source.
Yeah, and sometimes it kind of almost took on that era. I mean, if you take a look at the Egyptian myth, I want to say there was a god of the Nile, and there, if I remember right, theirs was set up in such a degree that the flooding of the Nile was almost like a rebirth cycle in some ways.
Also, their kings were part of their religion, so it was on the king to go out and make the prayer and bring the Nile flood. So,
yeah.
As somebody mentioned, could you imagine, the amount of pressure? Every year you have to go out and make your prayer, and what happens if it doesn't happen this year? Something you have no control over.
It's kind of interesting you mentioned the Egypts, and we were talking earlier about the the first Egyptian pyramid, the step pyramid.
Right. Yeah.
The guy who designed that and oversaw the building of it was named Amenhotep, and he was actually made into an Egyptian god of wisdom.
Yeah. Uh, that was one of his first, but he ended up making a bunch of good ones too. He did eventually perfect the pyramid.
Yeah, but I always tell people, I said, even the Egyptians revered engineers enough to make them gods.
Yeah.
Tell that to sales service people all the time.
Oh, okay. Feel like that's pretty good covering of the Noah story. It's been
Yeah,
beaten to death by every angle.
it has, and it's we can go into a lot of stuff on it, but you're pretty familiar with my stance on it and stuff. So
Yeah. I think it's a common story across several,
yeah,
cultures. So let's see, what do we got coming up in 8? Is this more of the ark? Yeah, this is the end of the ark. And landing on Sinai, maybe?
yeah, and the dove is released.
Yeah. Okay. And God remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the cattle that was with him in the ark, and God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of the heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters returned from the earth continually. And after the end of the 150 days the waters were abated, and the ark rested in the 7th month, and on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, there were tops of mountains seen. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made, and he sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. Also he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her, and pulled her in unto him into the ark. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again he set forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came in to him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the 1st month, in the 1st day of the month, the waters were dried up from the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. And in the 2nd month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth dried. And God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee, of all flesh, both of fowl and of cattle, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful, and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went forth, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth after their kinds, went forth out of the ark. And Noah builded an ark unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast and every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor. And the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing, as I have done. All the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. Alright, so basically saying again that, okay, this time I did it right. This time I've got it straightened out. He smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground. Yeah, they bounce around a lot in this one as well, as it's probably pretty clear. Now that I'm looking at how these bounce around here, it seems like it makes more sense that that's the case.
Oh, with them, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so let's
the
see.
portion where they, the bird goes out and doesn't find dry land, and uh, that whole section where they go through the motion several times. Who do they think wrote those sections?
I'm going to put them in right now so we can compare them because it goes, like I said, back and forth. Let's see here. So 8.3, then 8.3b, and then 8.4. Okay, is all P. P, P. Then 6 goes back to J. Then 7, P. Then 8, J through 12. And then P for part of this one, and then back to J, and then back to P, to 19, and then J. Okay, so this is what we've got. Which one were you asking about?
The port section there where they talk about the dove getting sent out and it didn't find land and it comes back. Do that several
Right.
times.
Yeah, so this is all from the one that says Jehovah.
Okay, that makes interesting.
And
Yeah,
maybe,
it seems like
I think that maybe this part is written by the priests, which fill in the rest of this as well. The priests stick this little bit in also.
yeah.
And, yeah. It's very interesting to me also why they went back and forth because like up here, you know, so let's say that the priest line was added, right? So then it would be, and it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. Also he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from the face of the ground. I wonder if there was something in between there to begin with, or if that was, I don't know. I confused myself already.
No, it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. It's
But yeah, it's pretty clear that you've got a story part here, and then you've got a story part here, and then a different story part here. Because different sections are repeated.
mhm.
So it makes sense the way that they've described. Okay, come on. There we go. Again, I feel like this story has been beaten up enough to where I'm good with moving on to 9.
Yep.
And let's see, what do we got here? Some more ages. Oh, a rainbow. Sweet. I forgot about the rainbow. How could I forget about the rainbow?
Oh yeah, for the symbol of hope.
Yeah. Promise never to flood the earth again. Alright, chapter 9. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require, at the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man, and at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. And you be ye fruitful, and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. And God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, if of every of the fowl of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark to every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant, which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. And the sons of Noah went forth from the ark, were Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the 3 sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine, and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew that his younger son had done to him. He said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Okay, I thought that I repeated myself, but I think that it was because it repeated itself. So
It did.
okay, good. A little bit of that poetry repetition, I guess, coming through. Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And this is an interesting line too. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man.
I'm a little confused about that. One of the interesting things is a little bit further down, where he talks about you shall not eat of the animal that bring forth abundantly. Where is that? Oh, there it is. Now, 15. And I'll remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of flesh.
And the water shall no more become a flood.
That's not it. I thought I read in there as you was reading along where you're not supposed to eat flesh of the beasts.
Okay, yeah, let's see.
Or spill the blood.
Let's see if I highlight this, will it highlight the words that I'm asking for?
Yeah, right here.
Shall ye
verse
not eat,
3.
yeah.
Yeah, verse 3. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as a green herb. But the flesh with
the
life
thereof, which is the blood thereof.
Yeah.
So I think
You
that's
shall
saying
not
don't eat
eat.
humans. Don't eat people.
Well,
But flesh with
okay.
the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. I think.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Yeah. So everybody get out of the ark, and I'll make a covenant with you. And God said, this is the token of the covenant for perpetual generations. Put a bow in the clouds. When I see the cloud, it will remind me of this covenant. And he says that a few times over and over again. And this is the token of the covenant. Okay, and then we get down here to Ham is the father of Canaan. So when I get to these parts where they say that Canaan is to forever be a servant, this sounds like something that someone would go back and say so that they can justify having Canaanite slaves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if we've learned anything with humans is we're not beyond a little bit of revisionist history now and then.
Right, yeah. Even if some of this was original, from however early the religion goes, if Canaanites were slaves at that point, this would certainly be a justification.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know.
See, and I kind of always thought that the mark of Cain thing was
Part of this as well.
since was part of that to justify maybe slavery. But I don't quite know the history of that,
Yeah, well, Cain's family would have been wiped out, right? The only family left now is Noah's. We're restarting with a new familial line.
You would think so, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of problematic because you would think that none of the descendants of Cain made it on the boat.
Right.
We're led to believe that everybody was killed, so then how do we... So...
Yeah, have the mark of Cain. Okay.
Yeah, and Mormondom, they don't clarify that very well either, so...
That's funny. Yeah, this was a good one. I like this this story of Noah getting drunk and then him waking up and blaming his son. Right, so Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine, and was drunken, and was uncovered within his tent. And Ham saw the nakedness of his father, and went and told his brothers. The brothers took a sheet and covered their dad. Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him. So is he saying that Ham went in there and undressed him, or was he already undressed when he was drunk?
I don't know. It's a weird one. I once again, it's that question of why is there always such a hang up about nudity?
Yeah.
But,
they're cursing
kind
him
of
to
looking
slavery
at...
forever because he saw his dad naked.
Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering, is this kind of code word for a sexual act?
Right, yeah, I've wondered that too, and that's kind of implied in this other video I was watching. I feel like that was because they just say something untoward, something untoward happens in the tent. But here it's pretty laid out that he was uncovered. Again, this is the King James Version, so I'd be really curious what the Greek or Hebrew text said before King James got his grubby little fingers on it.
A couple of other things that kind of make me, when I think about this and why my train of thought led me to that, one of the interesting things, too, is they also talk about him doing a vineyard, making wine and getting drunk.
Yeah.
And even back then, they had to know if you got drunk, it would tend to loosen one's inhibitions about things.
Right. I wonder if this is the first reference to wine. Like, is this the first time anyone ever got drunk?
I think so.
I would
at least
imagine.
Mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah. Maybe that's more what it's about, is
that... who's attributed to that portion of it?
Oh,
is it
good
the
question.
priest or Jay?
Yeah.
That might give us some interesting insight on it.
Yeah. This is chapter 9. Chapter 9, 1 through 17 is all priest. Chapter 9, 1 through 17. P. Okay, and then J is the rest, 18 through 7 or 27. So that's not the rest. That's J. And 28, 29 are 28 and 29 are revisionist. So these were added even later than the priests. So I think what I'm kind of figuring out, I'm sure you can't see this well, you're not even watching, right? But they've gotten,
For some reason, if I run the desk app, I can't hear you. So, but you need the desk app to see video. So,
I'm sorry.
but this as well.
Yeah.
No, no problem.
But yeah, so they list them as the J, E, P, R, and so I'm wondering if that's in the order of when they lived or when they are attributed to have living, right? Because I know J is the earliest one. I kind of.
What was E again?
E is another author who called God Elohim instead of Jehovah.
Yes, that's correct.
So both J and E are very, very old. They're 900 BC. And then P is probably 500 BCE, and then R is maybe shortly after that. So they're all still really, really old. These are all well before Jesus and such. But
yeah, I mean the revisionists could definitely be a later sect of priests. You know?
Right, exactly right. Yeah,
so that,
I'm sure that's exactly what it was.
You know.
The reason that the priest is called priest is not because they were priests, but because they talk about priests. It's like because that line that they worry more about lineages, timelines, places, and priests.
Yeah. Like I said, it's in Mormondom.
Right,
you know,
right. It's a whole lineage. Yeah.
There has to be a lineage, and that's one of the things that Mormons say why they trump other religions is you know, the keys have been restored. We have direct lineage, you know, back to these people.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, I was wondering where
So I can get that.
6 came in. That they missed it earlier, but it was a revisionist also.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting because they say that same thing down here. I bet they added that in as well. The 600 years old when the flood receded. Yeah, these two lines were added by the revisionists. So they are very specifically trying to give Noah an age. Very
You know, I'm
curious.
wondering, are they trying to hint at possibly that maybe he was a descendant of the Nephilim? You know, to where he has, you know, he's part God or something. I'm wondering.
Yeah, kind of like they mentioned up above. They were what did it say about men? They were powerful men or something. Men of renown. That's what it was. That was a really good chapter. That was one of the better ones we've had so far, in my opinion. We're getting more specific, I guess, so Noah is a character I'm excited to learn. And now we're going to do the last chapter of the day. We'll pick up on Babel next time, because that'll be a great starting point. Okay, so are you good with 9? You want to move on to 10?
Yep.
Seemed like we're making pretty good time. So here we will talk about the lineages some more. Great. My favorite. Yeah, and this is going to be a whole lot of names I'm not going to know how to pronounce. Wish me luck. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraz, and Phut, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sapta, and Ramah, and Septeka. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Ashur, and builded Nineveh, and the city Rehoboth, and Calah. And Rezin between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. And Mizraim begat Ludim, and Anahim, and Lehabim, and Naphtuim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistim, and Caphtorim. And Canaan begat Sidon his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Gigarzite, and Hivite, and Archite, and Sinite. And the border of the Canaanites as for from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar unto Gaza, is the as thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboam, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, and brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram, and the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mosh. And Arphaxad begat Shalah, and Salah begat Eber. And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his day was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan begat Almodad, and Seleph, and Hasmar-Veleth, and Jerah, and Hadaram, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Abal, and Abimiel, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Mesha, as thou goest unto Shephar, a mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, after their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. Wow. I butchered that, but there were a couple of really key names in here. So starting up here at the top, I want to point out that he does mention everyone after his tongue. Does this mean that they were speaking different languages at this point? Because the way I understand the Babel story is that everyone spoke the same language.
Well, if you look at the first verse 1 of Genesis 11.
Yeah. And the whole earth was of one language. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe tongue meant something different. Maybe dialect. Or maybe they were just...
I don't know.
Yeah. Either way. Then we get to some names that I know are real, right? So Cush begat Nimrod. I'm pretty sure Nimrod was a real person. I'm not sure if they are related or not, but... Oh, okay, they failed. I thought that he was found to be someone real. But we do get real names here very soon.
What do you mean, people who they think existed?
That and places, primarily places. So Babel is Babylonia,
Okay.
right? Is Babylon?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Asher is that becomes the Assyrian Empire, which he talks about in just a second. Nineveh. This is another place they thought was fake, but there's a guy who found. I don't know if it was actually Nineveh, but he found a great library there with the tablets of Babylon.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it was long thought to be a myth, and then some guy went out and was like, "No, I'm gonna find this place," and he fucking did it. Yeah, 1840s. Anyway, so Nineveh and Ashur and Babel are all real places. Canaan, obviously. And then in here, he says something about them coming out of Ashur, and it's the Assyrian Empire that he's referring to.
Well, that's cool.
Could have sworn I saw that in here somewhere. But anyway, yeah. Out of that land went forth Ashur. That's the Assyrian Empire. So basically just describing all of the tribes. I would imagine that these were all real tribes at some point. And places and people and cultures. There's Gaza, Sodom and Gomorrah.
But the one thing I have to ask is 'cause especially I was thinking of this when we were talking about the rivers. How do we know that the river that is, like for example, the Euphrates, that it's the same river, even though it's mentioned in the Bible? How do they know they didn't name the river after what was in the Bible?
Yeah, and that's probably what they did, right?
I don't know. It'd be kind of without knowing one way or the other, it'd be kind of rude of me to say it is that way.
Yeah.
But it is food for thought.
So I think that the reason that they know so well is because of this list, right?
Mhm.
These cities that they list, a lot of them are real places.
Well, and they may also be able to trace the names back too.
Right.
We call this the River Bob, but the Egyptians called it the River Euphrates. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So out of all the cities and stuff, you said there was a list of places, because as far as I know, we have not found any historical or archaeological proof for Sodom and Gomorrah, have we?
Good question. I was wondering that right as I talked about it. Because I think that they have found some things about them. How do you spell Gomorrah? Do you recall? Gom?
Gomorrah, yeah, like it's gonna be like Gomorrah from
Okay.
the Marvel movies, I think.
No verified sites have been found.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
But I don't think that means these people doubt it, right?
No.
I think
I'm
it's
not
been
saying that. I was
referenced
just kind of
outside.
curious.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. Some of these cities
You
they
know.
absolutely have found, right? Like they've found and they have some of the temples that were there, back in this time we're talking
Uh
about.
huh.
Um,
I mean, because you never know. I mean, they're just. I mean, I just saw a news article this week about how they found. I want to say it was in the jungle somewhere, a Maya complex that was pretty much just out in plain sight, but it was so covered nobody really knew about it. You know.
Yeah.
until they're able, I think, to scan it. So
Yeah, so this cigarette would have been built right around the time of Abraham. God, that's so fascinating. The things that people did. You know what I mean? I'd be really curious which of these cities have been found and historically, located.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Some of them, like I said, I'm familiar with some of it I'm not. Because like I know Troy was one of the ones that they haven't found yet, and I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I thought they even gone as far as they pretty much convinced that it is a mythical city, but I don't know.
I thought they had found it. Yeah, they have it. 1822
Do
was the
they?
first to identify the position of the city as it is now known. The second half of
Oh,
the 19th
cool.
century, they've dug up what must have been Homeric Troy. Yeah, I read somewhere that a guy bought the land. He was so confident that it was going to be Troy that he bought the land and then couldn't afford to dig it up. So he had to like sell the rights to the British Museum for them to come in and actually dig it up for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he sold all of his profits into the family business to invest in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do have Troy's location.
Well, that's cool. That's good. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because a lot of the stuff, they found. I mean, if you didn't know any better, you read stuff like like the Great Lighthouse or you know, what was it, Colossal, you know, Colossus at Rhodes,
Yeah. Um, prior to the reign of Sargon of Akkad. So sometime prior to 2300 BCE is when Babel was built. It was pretty safe to assume that this was after 2500. Lots of kids.
So a little off topic here. Um, I don't know if you ever played any of the endless games, like Endless Space
Yeah, I've played
or
some.
RPG version. I really like the fantasy one.
Um,
I wish I need to get back play some more of it. But anyhow, that particular company, their next game they're working on, which they said it's the game they kind of been wanting to do all along, is
Humanity or something.
basically a take on historical civilizations. Think of like their version of Civ.
Yeah, yeah, I've had it on my wish list already. Um,
Oh, so you can. So they already given a title and everything for it.
yeah, I think so.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure it's
Okay.
this one that I'm thinking of. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sticking around and doing this with me.
No problem. No, I'm more than happy to talk about it, and it's nice to visit with you again.
Yeah, for sure.
And to be honest with you, a lot of it I was just sitting here playing Borderlands, so
Totally. That's cool. Yeah, this
going
is
going
the
back through just clean stuff up.
so I'm not sure how
Yeah,
these is related. I remember it being from the same guys that yeah, so it's Endless Space guys, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for it for sure. That'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really have liked their games and stuff. It's just for some reason, I'm at that point in my life. I used to, be able to hop on like a game of Civ and play, 6, 7 hours straight,
Yeah.
and it's kind of hard to put that much time in it anymore.
Yeah,
You know.
definitely. Especially devoted, concentrated time.
Yeah, that gets slightly more complicated when you get little ones.
Yeah, tell me about it. All right, I think I'm gonna go ahead and shut down.
Okay, well, it's nice to talk with you guys again and stuff, and
Yes, sir. Thank you so much again for sticking it out
no,
and helping
anytime,
me
dude, anytime.
run through it all. I
Yeah.
had a lot of fun. I'll let you know when I'm ready to do it again and move on to.
Yeah, give me a heads up, and I might be able to be a little bit more prepared.
Yeah, totally.
So,
The next time, I think we'll be more prepared as well. This was really just a trial, but
Yeah.
it went really well. So thank you again so much. I really
yeah,
appreciate it.
no problem. If Courtney's in hearing range, nice to hear from you again, Courtney.
She
Have a good one,
shut down
guys.
already, but I will let her know.
Okay, have a good one, guys.
Yes, sir. You too.